Hello. So today we're going to be learning Likkutei Torah daf Samach. We are continuing the mimer of Mimana Afar Yaakov Mespar's Reva Yisrael, which is a pasuk in Parshas Balak, and we are beginning with Ice Gimel, which is at the bottom of daf Samach Zayin. So, in order to understand this idea of counting the complement of Bilam, that he says that there is that who could count the dust of Yaakov and enumerate the Reva Yisrael, which either means a fourth or four of Yisrael. So we want to understand exactly what this idea of not being able to count means. So there's a Gemara in Yuma which quotes the pasuk in Hosea, which says, "Mesper b'nei Yisrael kachol hayam." The count of the Jewish people is like the sand of the sea, asher lo yimad v'lo yisafer, that cannot be counted and cannot be enumerated. So the Gemara says, how do you read this pasuk, right? Which says that we're counting it as sand, but then it can't be counted and it can't be enumerated. And the answer is that if the Yidden are doing what the Eibishter wants, then they can't be counted. But if they are, then they can. And we have to understand exactly what this means, and we also have to understand in general what this quality of sand is, right? Why are we associated with, why are we linked to sand? So sand, the Alter Rebbe explains, is the dirt that borders the oceans and rivers. And what we know about sand is that unlike most dirt around the world that can be that fuses together and can be picked up as a chunk, sand is individual grains. And when it's dry and it's in its natural state is dry, each individual grain can be picked apart and they don't fuse together. And the explanation given by the Alter Rebbe at a physical level is that it has to do with moisture and moisture retention. That the dirt is capable of retaining moisture, whereas sand is not, and so sand prevents sand prevents the moisture from staying, and therefore it prevents the sand from fusing together. And the nimshal for this, so the chayas, the vitality of the universe is going to be associated with water. And and as we're about to explore how sand, what the parallel to sand is in the spiritual realms. So we're gonna explain this through the lens of a concept in the Beis HaMikdash, that it says in Malachim that Shlomo Melech, when he was dedicating the Beis HaMikdash, added to the kelim, and one of the things he added was the Yam Shlema, which is a tub, a very, very large tub. It's a pool that is suspended. It's on top of 12 oxen, and so philosophically, this is a metaphor for water, for life, which is forced to have these 12 oxen, this number 12 that serves as a barrier between the water, between the life, and the world with which it interacts. Now we know that the whole creation, the whole quality, the idea of creation yesh ma'ayin, v'savas yesh ma'ayin, is that it has to do with Malchus, with the Eibishter's quality of Malchus, right? As we know that Malchus is what allows there to be פירוד, right? Malchus is what creates the separation and the division and the diversity of creation. And this is much like a king himself, that when he ascends the throne, his subjects see him as a king and bow to him. All right, and so too, the quality of Malchus, the Eibishter's quality of Malchus, is what allows there to be the subjects. This is what allows there to be creation. And so from the Eibishter's Malchus, which the Eibishter's Malchus is Ein Sof, this is what creates Eilumas, which are which are Balak Vul, Bria, Tzir, and Asiya, and despite the fact that they are Balak Vul, they themselves have an Ein Sof quality, right? As we know that there is no calculation, there's no limit to the number of creations that can be, right? And this is all due to the fact that the Eibishter lends, so to speak, his Ein Sof, his Malchus, to creation. And when Malchus expresses itself, what it creates is a פירוד. It creates distinctly separate beings that each receive their chayas, that each receive their vitality from Malchus. As it says, Ki shemesh u'magen havaya elikim, that God has the quality of havaya and elikim, which is both a shemesh and a magen, right? And this is the idea of there being right of both of these qualities, both chesed and gevura, of both being part of the Eibishter's expression, self-expression, and that both of them together serve to make creation. And so as is explained in Tanya, that in Shari V'Amuna, that the quality of hisnasos is in the state of histalkos, which means that there's a boundary and a barrier between the chayas that we receive and ourselves. So, and this is analogous to the water, which provides moisture, but that the water pulls away the moisture from the sand and makes the individual grains of sand, as we discussed before. It makes these individual grains of sand possible due to the fact that the water is being drawn away. And this is the idea of counting. That we're saying that even though it's impossible or very, very difficult to count the sand, but it's begeder mispar. Right, we can recognize that sand has this quality of countability, but nevertheless, because it's so difficult, because there's so many grains of sand, it's hard to imagine how I would actually go about counting them. But it's in the gather of mispar, but it's right, and this is the analogy of sand, and this is the in the context of creation, this is the idea of there being פירוד, right, where there's nevraim that are nifradim, and so even though there's an infinite number of nevraim, there is also the ability, so to speak, to count those nevraim. And so this is the pshat in the pasuk v'hayu misper b'nei Yisrael, that the Yidden are the ones that create the idea of mispar, meaning that they draw down malchus to cause the Eibishter's quality of malchus to be malchuska le'lamim. What is that process? That when a Yid does a mitzvah, that the mitzvah is called mitzvahs hamelech, and when before each mitzvah we say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech ha'olam, which is the idea of drawing down our Ein Sof, Atah Hashem, into melech, into melech ha'olam. What we're doing is we're drawing down our Ein Sof in a way that makes that removes creation from the category of mispar. So the idea, the Jew has a certain power over the countability of creation, in that the Jew has the ability to manipulate that and to bring creation to a space where it cannot be counted, meaning where creation is seen through the perspective of Ein Sof. And this is the idea that it says that the Jew will not be counted and it cannot be enumerated when we are doing Eisen Ritzon Shel Makam, meaning that when we're drawing down Ratzon Elyon into Ma'aseh Mitzvahs, and this is our Ein Sof Baruch Hu, and we do this by doing mitzvahs in an eifin of simcha, which is where we are performing the mitzvah from our own pnimius halev, as it says B'kudei Hashem Yisharim Samchei Leiv. And tachas shasher leivad Hashem leikecha b'simcha v'tuv leivav me'reiv kol, right? That when we serve the Eibishter without simcha, we are missing a fundamental component of our avodas Hashem. And Moshe Rabbeinu says that when you didn't serve the Eibishter with simcha, me'reiv kol, from all of this, and Merev Kol means the bligvol. This lamala adin ketz lamata adin tachlis. So in other words, when we were that an essential part of us performing mitzvahs is that we are plugged in to the Rev Kol. We're plugged into the Arin Seif that is part of this. That is supposed to be part of creation, but is not naturally part of creation. And this then is pshat in the pasuk saying as Reva Yisrael as being a fourth, right? And what is this fourth? This is the Afa Sisav, which is the idea of connecting Ratzon to Asiya. So this is a reference to the beginning of the Mimer, where the Alter Rebbe read this very very famous pasuk. V'lechvaydi berasiv yutartiv af asisiv, and the Alter Rebbe read the af as being something that is higher than the berasiv yutartiv and the asisiv, which he translated as machshava dibra ma'isa, and the af is something that is that it controls those three, and that he explained was Ratzon. And so this ties in what we're saying now, the idea that when we are Eisen Retain Shalmakam, we move out of the category of countability. This ties into this idea of the fourth, the fourth quality, the Ratzon, that Ratzon is fulfilled bedafka in Asiya, which is why it says Af Esisiv. And we can also read this as Reva Maloshin Arba, right? That Reva is the four, because this is also about us serving the Eibishter with all four qualities, with Machshava, Dibur, Maisa, and Ratzon. So in both senses, when we tap into a whole approach to our service of Hashem, which means our Machshava, Dibur, Maisa, and Ratzon, or when we connect the Eibishter's Ratzon to Maisa, in both cases we leave the category of countability. Now, why is it, coming back to the pasuk, why is it that it says that mimana and shein mispar, which although it establishes this as being outside of the realm of counting, but it's the counting is still very much a part of the reality. And so this is the idea that the hamshachas are in seif has to be within the context of Asisav. It has to be within the context of Asiya. So what we're trying to do is to draw Ratzon bedafke into creation, in a way that creation can remain in existence and still appreciate it. And so this is why the mispar, the countability factor, would remain intact. Now all of this is Yichuda Tataa, which Maisa Mitzvahs was this idea of being Mamshech Ratzon Elyon to become the counter, right? To assert the Ayin Seif, to assert the uncountability within the counting, right? To bring Ayin Seif into Asiya. But Talmud Torah Kenega Kulam, that Limud Torah is Yichuda Yilah. So in this mimer, we're presenting mitzvahs as Yichuda Tataa and Torah as Yichuda Yilah. And this, in the pasuk, is the Mi Mana Afar Yaakov. Right? The pasuk began with Mi Mana Afar Yaakov u'Mispar Reva Yisrael. So the second part of the pasuk is a reference to mitzvahs. And so in the context of mitzvahs, there's still the idea of mispar. There's the idea of the counting of Yisrael being challenging or being impossible. But when it comes to Torah, what it says is that mi mana afar Yaakov, and afar, right, dust, is something that has no shaykhis to being counted whatsoever. And this is the idea of Talmud Torah, which Talmud Torah is the actual Ratzon of the Eibishter, and therefore this is Yichuda Yilah, which is a true and complete bittul to Ein Seif. And this happens when we learn. That when we learn, we are connecting our intellect to the Eibishter's intellect. We're making an absolute connection, and this connection is not begeder mispar. It doesn't come into the realm of counting. It has no shaykhs to this. And this, the Alter Rebbe says in the Sagrayim, comes to a very, very interesting, a very interesting idea, which is that the Torah, we know that when we learn the Maisa Karbanas, we fulfill the Maisa, right? We it's as though we were makar of the carbon. But the Maisa Karbanas can be studied day or night. So even though an Oila cannot be brought except for at specific times, when we learn about the Maisa Karbanas, when we learn about the Oila, mitamal, we're giving an Oila in the middle of the night. Mashenki in the mitzvahs, that the mitzvahs are bound by time. There is a specific time for them, and if it's out of that time, it is the mitzvah is meaningless. Right? Eating matzahs in the sukkah is not a meaningful act. Mashenki in Torah, that Torah is raiva deraivan. And this is why we say that the mitzvahs are kedushin, that the mitzvahs is the beginning of the relationship. But Torah is the actual connection, is the actual bond that are with the Eibusher's Ratzon. And so he explains that even though mitzvahs also are the Eibusher's Ratzon, they are chitzonius, and the Torah is premius, and this is al derech, the idea that when a person is studying something, their face will light up. So the chachma, right, and this is a gilui pnimis ataynik. So chachma in general has this intrinsic and inherent link with pnimis haratzon, with tainug, and that is the relationship that we develop when we study the Torah. Now, how is it that we have the ability to connect through Torah? That learning Torah in a way of Yichuda, it requires a Yaakov quality, requires rachamim, which we have to daven and ask the Eibusher to have the mercy on us that will allow us to navigate the Torah in this way, which is why we are given particular times to be ma'ir rachamim rabbim, which are chatzos and during davening. And this is the idea of the Seder HaTfilah, that Psukei de Zimra has these Psukei Rachamim, because the morning is a time of is an Eis Ratzon for Rachamim, and the Midah of Yaakov is Yod Ekev, and this is the idea of the Rachmanas, that the Yud, which is Chachma, should connect to the Ekev, which is should go down and connect to Ekev, which is the lowest point. That Yaakov is the quality of being able to span a bridge from one side to the other, and to lift it up in a state of Yehuda. And so this is the process that we daven, we beg the Eibusher Rachamim that he should allow us to bridge the real divide that Torah is meant for, which is the idea of the Yehuda. Now, based on this, it would appear that only the first half of the pasuk is relevant. Why is it that both qualities are mentioned, right? Both Torah and mitzvahs. If Torah is Yehuda and mitzvahs are Yehuda Tataa. So here comes the Maimer Chazal that somebody who works in Torah alone, right, is not good. He needs to work in Torah and Torah im gemil chasadim. And so this is where both come into play. That the Maisa, the Asisiv, the second part of the pasuk, the Maisa HaMitzvahs, is the idea of particularly Maisa Tzedakah, which is the whole idea of Gemil Chasadim from that Maimer Chazal. And then we have this Sagrayim, which also describes in further detail with more information exactly how this Yichuda Ilan Yichuda Tataa work, with references to other places in Kabbalah and Chassidus. And with this we conclude the Maimer. And now we're going to bring in this beer. We're focusing particularly on this idea of the sand and the idea that something can be begeder mispar, but also be uncountable, right? What exactly does it mean to be kind of in and out of that world? So coming back to the sand and the analogy of the sand, right? So we know that as mentioned before, the sand is something that can be broken up into many little pieces, and those pieces are begeder mispar, meaning that you can begin to count. Right? I can count individual grains of sand, but nevertheless, the abundance of sand makes them uncountable. Dirt, on the other hand, is something that there's no concept of counting dirt, right? Unlike sand, where there are grains of sand, dirt is truly uncountable. Now, Lamaila, there's this idea of the sand of the sea, right? Which is the idea that there's of something being begeder mispar, but nevertheless, it is not counted. It's not countable. Meaning, just like the sand, which theoretically could be counted, because I can take an individual grain of sand and say I'm holding a grain of sand. Nevertheless, I cannot count the amount of sand in the sea because there's too much of it. Right. So there is this idea of things that are begeder mispar but can't be counted, and then there's the idea of things which are like dirt that they truly cannot be counted. So now coming back to the analogy of the yam shel shlema, yam shel aser shlema, right? So it says that it stood on these 12 oxen, and the water, the basin, the yam, was on top of them, and the yam is malchus datilus, and the yud beis bakar are the four machnes hashchina, with three which each machna is broken up into three. So Gavriel has one machna of three, and Michal has one machna of three, and they each point to different directions, equaling a total of the four cardinal directions, which equal a total of 12. So, and the water is above them, and this is midas malchus, which midas malchus, as we said before, is this idea of hisnasos, and this is a quality of remus and histalkos from the nivraim, which stands in contrast with the other midas, that the other midas have, in a sense, a greater relationship with the nivraim, right? Because we know that chesed is the idea of kiruv, is the idea of ava, but melucha, right, kingship, is by definition the idea of being distinct, of being separate, and that the idea of melucha is inherently indicative of a separation, which is why we don't say the idea of melucha in relationship with children, that my relationship with my child cannot be one of melucha, because there's this quality of separation that we cannot have, and so too it is when it comes to the body, right? That we know that every part of the body is immediately responsive in a healthy body to the mind. And so as soon as I have the machshava to move my hand moves. But in no sense would I say that my mind is a melech over my body. Why? Because my hand and my body are one thing. And so the bittul that my hand has to my body is b'derech memela. And I don't use the idea of melucha because there's no concept of control here, and it's only when something is separate from the entity that I can then begin the conversation of control and say that even hagam, that this thing is separate. Naradem, it is batal, and so too it is lamaila, that the quality, the Eibusher's quality of malchus is particularly and specifically one that reinforces the separation, that reinforces the distance between the bayra and the nivra, and in that distance the control becomes possible. And this is that we say the in malach palayam, which is the idea of the elements of biyah, that the elements of biyah are nivraim, they're balak vol. The nivraim of biyah have their own distinctly separate qualities, but they are mevatel those qualities to the Eibusher. So meaning that the midas hamalchus creates them in a way that they can feel distinct and separate, and then by their own choice they choose to be mevatel. And this is why we use the language of mevatel hayesh. And this is the idea of the yam, that the water stands above them. It's in a state of reimus and histalkos, and it creates the am. It creates the nation. It creates the פירוד, and this happens through the melucha. That through the melucha, the creation and the vitality of distinctly separate beings becomes possible. And Kabbalistically, this is described in the Yitzchayim as the curtain, as the barrier that exists between Atzilus and Biyah. That this barrier prevents the Gilui of Atzilus into Biyah and makes and causes the Ar of Atzilus to be in the state of Reimus and Hisnasos, and through this it's able to make Biyah be a place of limited beings, of measured beings, of beings that have their own independent identity, and the right with Atzilus, with the Ar of Atzilus being in the state of Hisnasos. Now, if Atzilus is the Yam, particularly if Malchus of Atzilus is the Yam, then what is the sand? The sand becomes the Nivraim that come from that come from Malchus, right? They come from the Yam, but the sand enters this quality and earns this quality of being countable, because every nivra in biyah is a yesh v'davar nifrad b'fnei atzmai. It's in its own individual box, as we said before, as we see described before the camps of the malachim. So we said that there's the malach mechol in his machana. This is individual malachim, right? That each one is an entity for itself, and so just like each grain of sand is its own entity, so too the every being in biyah has this individuality. But then there is the idea of uncountability, that it's difficult to count them, or it's impossible to count them, because there's this just like there's this infinite amount of sand around the world, there's the infinite permutations and combinations of creations. But the uncountability is not an inherent quality, it's a matter of fact based on how many of them there are, just like when it comes to sand. Now, there is a distinction to be made, that when it comes to Lamaila, there's a real quality of Ein Mispar. There's an actual quality of Bli Mispar Klal that does not necessarily exist in the physical world. And the reason is that Malchus of Atzilus draws down the Kav from Arein Seif, and it stops in Atzilus. And from this is created beings Yesh Ma'ayin, from this quality of Malchus, from this quality of Hisnasos, right? But this is only based on the Kav of Arein Seif, which is Meluvish in Malchus. And this is explained at length in Egeres Ukedesh Siman Chaf, and the hislabshus of Arein Seif in Malchus, right, through the Kav, lends an Ein Seifness, lends an Ein Mispar quality to Nivraim, that the Nivraim, even though they themselves are in a geder of mispar, right? Because they theoretically can be counted in that they are individual, distinct entities. But since there's Arein Seif, which is Meluvish Midas Malchus, and the Nivraim are Mekabel Chayos from Malchus of Atzilus, this lends a Ein Seif quality, or an Ein Mispar quality, to the Nivraim even in Biyah. So Hagam, that they are in the geder of mispar, Ein Mispar. That even though they are, so to speak, grains of sand, they can't be counted. And this is this is an actual reality. Now, coming back to the analogy, that we say that there's the grains of sand, that the sandbanks that border all bodies of water. So the reason that this is able to happen, and the reason that sand is different than all other dirt in the world, is that the water draws out the moisture from the sandbanks, and through this, it causes the sand to be truly dry, and the dryness of the sand is what allows the separation to occur. So it's the relationship that the sand has with the water that is what causes the separation to occur. And so too it is Lama'ila. That we know that Lama'ila, Chayos is called water. As we find in the Pesach Eliyahu, that it says that within the spheres there is Shema, and the Pesach Eliyahu gives an analogy. It says that the spheres are, the tree of the spheres is watered with the Shema, much like water gives hydration to a physical tree. So this idea of there being Shema within Atzilus is the Ha'aras Ein Sof, which comes down from Ak, and this is the Hashpa of Ein Sof into Atzilus, which is analogous to water. That water comes from a high place down to a low place, and the Gilui that is in of Shema is evident in Atzilus, is revealed in Atzilus. Masha'en Kain, from Atzilus to Biyah, there is this barrier, and this is again the reason why there are the 4 camps within Bria, each with three mini camps within them, right? Which is compared to the 12 oxen upon which the Yam Shel Shlomo rests. So we find that there's a distinctly different quality to life in Biyah versus life in Atzilus, and this is the idea of the sand. That the sand is that the sand divides up into an infinite number of particles, and that this was based on the sand's relationship with the ocean. And so too, this is that just like the ocean takes the moisture out of the sand, so too it is that with Malchus of Atzilus, that it limits the amount of chayas that is going to come into Biyah, because the kav stops in Malchus of Atzilus. And Malchus of Atzilus has this quality of remus, has this quality of hisnasos, and this, right? So which means, in a practical sense, that there's a lesser gilui that is in Biyah being caused by the essential nature of Malchus, right? This essential nature of Malchus needing to be distinctly separate from the creations. And what this does is it creates Nivrayim, that the Nivrayim have their own are limited, that the Nivrayim are finite and are defined and are unique and diverse. But this histalkos is not a complete histalkos, because if it was a complete histalkos, the creations would be truly and completely separate, and the point of creation is this idea of bittul yesh. And Kabbalistically, this separation and not separation plays out with the idea that although there is this curtain, this barrier between Atzilus and Biyah, but nevertheless it says that a glimmer bursts through the curtain, and through this causes this bittul, and from here the creation gains this quality of being begeder mispar, but not being countable at all. But nevertheless, the life in Biyah is compared to sand. Masha'en Kain, life in Atzilus, where the chayas is constantly evident, where the chayas is perpetual and revealed. So this would be like dirt. That dirt still has, as we said before, the moisture of water mixed in within it, and the moisture is what combines and binds this dirt together. And so when it comes to dirt, we said before that there's no language of mispar whatsoever, right? Because the dirt is combined as one, and so too this is in Atzilus. That in Atzilus, where there's the mayim constantly evident, meaning there's the kav of Arin Seif, which is completely engaged and completely involved in Atzilus. What this causes is that the whole of Atzilus is united as one entity. It's in this state of complete unity, where the term mispar and the term ischalkos, these terms don't arise. They have no relevance in the world of Atzilus. And this is pshat that we say Lacha Hashem Hagdula V'Hagvura, right? And we list these spheres, and we say Lacha, they are to you, because all the midas of Atzilus are batal to the Eibishter b'tachlis habitul. They are completely one with him, and the reason for their bittul is the fact that they are constantly being exposed to a gilui Arin Seif. And now this bittul, this yichud that exists in Atzilus is called raza d'mehem nusa. This is a secret. It's something that is l'mayla mehasaga. It's something that cannot be comprehended. It cannot be. We cannot comprehend the nature of this yichud. But what we're given is this mashal. That the mashal is that when it comes to Atzilus, we use the word dirt. When it comes to biyah, we can use the word sand. And with this, we can also understand the idea and the philosophical question that given that in Atzilus, as we said before, Atzilus is not begeder mispar, and there's no concept of distinctly separate beings in Atzilus. So how is it that yesh ma'ayin can come, right? How is it that from Atzilus yesh ma'ayin comes into being? And on this we say that Ein Sof cannot be forced. There's no idea of hechrech when it comes to the Eibishter. Right? The Eibishter is a kol yachol. He's able to create whatever he wants, and from Ein Sof there can be these baligvul, and he can give life to them, and he can bring them into existence. Yesh ma'ayin through Malchus, which Malchus is this quality of reimus, it's this quality of histalkos, and what the advantage of the midah of Malchus is that it allows through the distance the possibility of creation, right? And this is the idea that this reimus is what is mahava me'ayin liyesh. And therefore, we call the midas of Atzilus are called raza d'mehem nusa, because it's higher than seichel and das. And just like we can't understand how the quality of chesed is able to create creations bligvul and to make these creations from nothing, so too we also can't understand the gevura side, how it is that the ar can be hidden in a way that allows differentiation to occur. And to allow there to be limited beings, allow there to be differentiated beings, and this comes back to the pasuk Shemesh U'Magen Hashem Lekim, right? That just like Havaya is not something that we can comprehend, so too it is with Elokim. That the significance of this pasuk is the fact that Havaya and Elokim are put together. That the gilui of the ar and the hester of the ar both have this same unfathomable quality, and they're both within the realm of possibility of the Eibishter. That if the chesed was revealed, creations would be mevatel legamri, right? The idea of independent creation would not be possible, and if the R was completely concealed, then the creation would disappear like a flame on a wick. That if the R was revealed completely, if R and Seif was revealed completely, then just like the flame of a candle would be overwhelmed by the light in a room, so too all of creation would be batal. And if the R was completely concealed, then there would be no life and there would be no vitality. But the Eibishter is a kol yachol, which this idea of kol yachol is is not fathomable, and it's exalted. It has this quality. The Eibusher has this quality of Malchus, which allows there to be this unfathomable idea that there's a Helam, but this is not a complete Helam, and this is this dual role. This is the hisnasos that allows creation to occur, and this is the idea of the Eibusher saying Ani Havaya, and this is how there can be creations that are in the Geder of Mispar, but nevertheless are Ein Mispar, and this happens through the barrier. This happens through the barrier between Atilus and Biyah, and this is the Magen, right? We said Shemesh Magen of Havaya, that this is the Magen which hides over Havaya, and this allows the idea of Mispar to occur. And so we have this Sagrayim that where the Alter discusses the source of this barrier, and the idea that the symptom actually comes from a far higher place, and then coming back into the finim of the mimer, this is the idea of the pasuk su'u mara menechem v'ro mi bar ela mighty mispar tzavam, that the mi ela is the idea of Shem Elokim, and through this is what causes Hamaitzi Mispar Tzavam, that the hosts come out, but because there's because this all comes from the Ha'aras Akav, this allows the Mispar to be Ein Mispar. That this allows that which could have been counted to be uncountable, to be literally Bligvul. And coming back to the final idea, which is that to stress that although in the analogy there is a finite number of grains of sand in the world, and so really they could be counted, but and the idea of uncountability when it comes to grains of sand has to do with the difficulty of that task. But when it comes to Ein Mispar Lamaila, this is literal. That there's an infinite number of diverse creations. There's an infinite number of creations in Biyah.